on the bottom. So, all right, everybody, it's 6:30, so I'll call the meeting to order and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. So start with the review of the minutes. We have actually two meeting minutes to review, the annual meeting and the regular.
I make a motion to pass the regular meeting notes first in December.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
I also make a motion to pass the annual meeting minute notes from December as well.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Stay. I was here.
Got that, Peggy? All right. So we're gonna do a quick public comment, and just so people know, if you're here for the discussion about Main Street, that's for later. So this public comment is for unrelated items. If anyone has anything, you have a 3-minute open floor. Is there anybody on Zoom, Peggy? All right. Nobody here for that, so we'll close public comment and move on to the treasurer's report. Dennis, do you have anything for us besides the bills? Okay. You got eyes on them. I didn't have any questions. Did you guys?
I'll make a motion to approve the treasurer's report and pay the bills.
I'll second. All in favor? Aye. All right. Moving on to the DPW report.
You have my report there. Any questions, I guess I could start with?
What's the doggy park ramp? What's the ramp?
It's we built it like a 10-foot ramp, it kind of goes like this with a flat surface.
Oh, like the little, like a
They can play.
extra, like a,
Yeah, just
nice,
something
cool,
that the dogs can play.
cool, very cool.
And, when we get time, like, stop snowing, I'm gonna build some benches for over there also for the people to sit, I think.
Sounds good.
Somebody brought over plastic chairs, which works, but there's no two there. I'm gonna build some benches in there,
Nice.
and I'll continue putting build other fun stuff.
One thing somebody mentioned to me was not to put the benches against the fence,
Exactly where I was gonna put it.
because then the dogs will just straight over the top. Yep, so just put them a little bit off the
Just
fence,
think about that.
or on the interior fence would be fine too.
Yeah.
Also a good idea, take it to the school. Some kids need service hours for their what's it called, National Honor Society. They'll build some benches, OD communal, the material,
Really?
and all of a sudden you got some.
Might not be any faster than doing it yourself, but you can sit in the chair and yell at them.
Jen, if you reach out to Jen, she probably will say, hey, I'll put that out there. Maybe some kids will snag onto it.
Nice.
Do that. I just want to elaborate on a few of these here. The hot water tank in the office kind of crapped out on us. And I have met with, we were supposed to have been here last week to put it in. Obviously, the cold weather and furnace is going up. He's been busy, hasn't been here. I'm not going to give him much longer, and I'm going to ask somebody else to do it, I think, so he can get some hot water in. Also, number 9, we had an issue at the water plant last week. It was frazzle ice, and if you don't know what frazzle ice is, it's like slush out on the lake. And when the wind blows and you get some really big waves, the water intake will actually suck the ice down and plug it. We figured it took it a little bit, but we figured that's what it was. And all you do is push water back out and it blows it out, let it set for a while, and it works again. But we had some, the tank operator had some questions for somebody to come, a consultant to come to take a look at the water plant. And I was approved for $7,000 to have the Paul company consultant come up. I found another guy, and it was only $1,500. This guy actually helped build those water skids down there. He used to work for the Paul company. And I'm waiting on his extensive or full report as to what we need to look at. But just what he told me word of mouth is the filters down there have about a 10, maybe a little over a 10-year lifespan on them. And we're at 12 now. And I've looked into purchasing these before and it's gonna be heavy. We're looking at probably 400,000 for them.
Okay.
Now, with that being said, there's 16 filters on each skid. 48 of them don't have to be done at once. We can do one skid 1 year, one skid another year, and the final skid the third year. So I'd like to plan for that
Right.
sooner than later, so we don't run into an issue. It is showing signs of it needing it. We're still at 100% of making water. We don't have any issues with that, but we have to clean them more. And I guess that's one of the signs that they're going to need to be changed.
So, Lynn, how many, 3 skids with how,
3 skids, 16 each. There's a,
on each skid?
and if anybody wants to go for a tour with me sometime, I can take you down there so you can put eyes on this to better understand it. But there's 16 filters on it basically. And they're, I don't know, they're probably 8 foot tall or so and probably 6 inches round. They're rather expensive.
When we replace them, we have to replace 16 at a time or one at a time? 16 at a time,
The
okay.
whole skid.
Okay.
So the 400K was for all
48?
Yeah, I mean, at the last check, I'm waiting for a quote back on those right now. I just want to get ahead of this a little bit.
Sure.
What we're looking at.
Just make sure, because we have budgeting season come up, we plan for that, and I think that's the right approach. Right now, all at once, but maybe over time.
The intake's drawing like a third of the time, a little less.
Probably, yeah.
Is there, I mean,
Maybe a little more.
Is it, how common is the frazzle? I mean, would it make sense to
Actually, yeah.
keep an eye out for it and turn off the intake during?
Once the lake freezes, which it is now, we don't have that issue.
Okay, so it's just when it's,
Last week,
Chunked.
before, when we had so much wind up here, the wind was bad.
Yeah.
It was bad.
is there, can we like turn, like, I know we can temporarily turn it off because the water towers are full. Is that something we should look at doing when the weather's?
I think everything's going well. I think that's, I don't really want to do that. But, well, I mean,
You think it's pretty
for
uncommon?
us, it is. Well, we've done it twice this year, which is,
Okay.
it takes, an hour and a half or so of downtime to do it.
Okay,
But I think we're doing the right thing.
okay. So it's not like damaging it by having it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
Cool.
Correct. I had actually Corey come down one day. The operator was getting nervous and and pushing his
Yeah.
nervousness onto me.
It's
Corey
happened
came
in the
down.
past before we succeed take two. There's some literature on it. Like I said, it's super cooling events.
Sure,
Actually, ice forms underneath the water.
Okay.
I mean, we're 22 feet of water.
right, it's deep.
And it forms down that low. As it gets cool, then it sinks, then it freezes down below. But
I should have brought over the explanation.
yeah, when we have windy weather and cold weather like that, they call it super cooling events, and it causes that to happen at times. I think there were some other plants up north that had similar issues that helped one of the divers work on some other intakes that they
Do we need a diver? It cleared by, okay. I had one other thing, for you guys. Mikey called today and asked, and I told him I'd be fine with it, but I wanted to check with y'all. If he could get access to the outdoor cameras, so that he can, for plowing, just so he can keep an eye on the different conditions throughout the village. I told him it's probably no problem, but since I know we were concerned with giving a lot of access to all the cameras before. He was like, he said, he doesn't need anything indoors, but just the different parking lots and, up at the visitor center, it helps to see the street. Yeah,
Yeah, just keep better updated with instead of coming out every so often.
yeah. So I told him I'd just double check with y'all, and if it was okay, I'd get him access, but just wanted to bring it up during the DPW report. Anything else for Lynn, guys?
I actually had somebody ask me, so I'm just gonna throw this out here. The ice skating rink that we normally put back here,
Yep.
Max is gone, and the question was, well, can't the DPW do it? And I was like, I don't know, let me ask.
Keep pushing work on us, nothing will get done.
I said I would ask, I'm a messenger. Because we can't rely on one person on one committee to do it.
Yeah.
So if the village is gonna fund it, if we're gonna buy the equipment, we need to figure out how to make it be put up.
One of the issues
So
too is
kids can use it.
the liner is a single use. It's about $1,000 per season. No, it doesn't last. it gets torn up enough that
It
you
was
can't.
used that one year and I
Yeah.
thought we put it in the budget. So did we replace it that
So
year?
no,
We never used it last year because it never got cold enough for long enough. So,
to Kelly's point
Yeah.
right now, in that shed that we purchased for this equipment is a brand new 10,000 foot ice skating rink, ready to be used. We just need people to put it up, right, and maintain it. And Max is gone. He shouldn't be a single point of
We
failure.
shouldn't.
And that's why I said the rec committee. Well, then let's figure this out, guys, because this is,
I know. I didn't want to put, I wasn't pushing it off on the DPW, but I
No, I know.
I wasn't.
I'm actually joking when I say that in a sense. You know, that does not get used by everybody. Before the season, I'm talking like October, November, started asking people if anybody's interested in skating out there. Yes. Well, are you interested in help putting this up? You know, more hands make lighter work,
I agree.
you know, instead of relying on one.
It is a
person
lot of
or
work.
us.
It took 4 of us to put it together and it was an all
Yeah,
day
it's late.
event. It took all day. That first time we put it together, Max, Joel, and I want to say someone else did it. There was 4 or 5 of us out there. It took all day.
And how much use did it get?
It didn't get used a lot that first year, but as Alex said, it was too warm last year to do it.
yeah, I mean,
It's definitely cold enough this year and it's not
and I think I just deferred to Max because I asked him about it and he was like, well, we might be able to use it for a week or two based on the future weather at the time I asked him. But he's like, you don't want to burn the liner for a 2-week season because it's like,
But I feel like that's gonna happen every year. So what did we, you know what I mean? The weather is up and down. We can't predict what it's
Right.
gonna be. So we invested in it. We purchased it and I don't want it to just sit in a closet
yeah.
let me
or
take
a
this,
shed or whatever.
let me take this back to the rec committee and see if we can't come up with a proposed solution for you guys. I think what we'll come back with is, one, we should probably make a determination. I mean, it's too early in November to say no. So maybe expect to put it up in January and maybe we pay somebody, a temporary DPW, not you guys, but a temporary guy who works with the DPW, who is a sole purpose in life for $10 an hour, maintains the ice skating rink for the village.
I think that we would be able to help. I just don't want to.
I want you part of it.
rely on-
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
things happen literally in seconds sometimes, and you know.
Right.
All or nothing.
No, I just.
Yeah, you
put
guys
them on
certainly
a-
aren't gonna be the ones shoveling it off because if there's snow there,
Yeah.
there's snow on the roads.
Yeah.
So-
Exactly.
Let us,
That was my thing is I was like, well, they are only a 3-man crew and they're usually.
When do your seasonal guys end?
September, October, yeah, well, actually, right around October.
Flower guy. I mean, I'm wondering if there are enough things where we could justify keeping one on.
I'm good, I've been thinking about what you wanted to do last year, Greg.
No way. You said no to that.
And
It's a great idea.
Take some time.
Good.
Oh,
No,
there's-
well, now we reneged that.
there's
Just
no-
no, we're not giving you that.
There's reasons why, and I was gonna talk about it during budget time, basically.
Okay.
But, just to forewarn you, I may have as little as 2 years left. So I want to almost start getting somebody in here and start learning things, because there's at least a 2-year curve here. It's longer than that. I guess I've been here for 15, and I'm still learning stuff every day, it seems. So. But if I do want to talk to you a little bit more about that as time goes on.
Jim, don't be laughing at 15 just because you hit 40. Not 15 is a good number.
hey, real quick to close out the other conversation, let me take it back to the rec committee. We'll come up with a couple ideas. We'll float this by this board next month and we'll determine, because yeah, we can't have that thing not be up right now.
I think we'd get a decent amount of volunteers if we put the word
I
out.
feel like it's
earlier.
almost too late. Maybe not. I mean, if we had an answer to that question right now, I'd say
Yeah.
go put it up.
Sure.
But if we have to come back to the February, meet by then.
Well, we can just find if we can find some volunteers to do it, we can do it. I'm happy to help, but
We have.
I know
everything
nothing
we need
about
to
it.
Put it up right now. If I were to put something out there asking for helpers, we would have everything that we need, right?
But that seemed to me, that's a 1-day event. Who's going to maintain the ice for the rest of the season?
Right.
That's the
Yeah.
hard part,
That is. And Max did all of that.
right?
A lot of ice, where's that now? All right.
I'm all set, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything for Lynn, guys? Before we move on? No? Okay. Is John here or on Zoom?
On Zoom.
Perfect. Mr. Gleason, you're up.
I turned in my report on the drive there. It was pretty typical winter month. Is there any questions that you guys had for me or?
Thanks, John.
your fire department doing your update.
Kelly, did you?
Department when I'm.
Dave, you're up, sir.
Yeah, you have my report also. Just a few things. One, first one is, I talked to a Ready staff person about the ribbon cutting. And, she proposed May 16th, so, that's not definite. She had to go back and check with all the higher ups and whatever, all the dates. But is there any reason, and we don't have to know tonight, but if there's any reason that it's not a good date, I guess.
Gonna be sunny that day?
No snow, so.
So Dave, the plan would be to visit each of the.
No, I think it's, there, we talked about just having it in the bandstand, just like one ceremony, unless we hear back different. That's what we talked.
Well, I thought that I guess at least our thought was they wanted to see, the complete.
Well, we can take them on, we talked about taking them on a tour, but
Yeah.
actually having the ceremony. in the
Okay.
bandstand, yeah.
I think also they just didn't want it to
You
be
said
too
May,
quick
right?
and then not
May
have us finish the
16th.
project.
That will coincide when you can actually cut the yellow tape out there as it is right now. Just leave it out there. Probably won't be done. We'll just cut the tape then, it'll
Hey,
be
the
May.
railing's there now, so those
Got the big system.
stones can come down.
Yeah,
Oh,
because-
perfect.
So the yellow tape's been there for,
It's gone now.
oh, is it gone?
Since the railing. yeah.
Never mind. You did it right before this meeting. That's the only thing I had for you guys. Yellow tape. What do we do now?
Due respect.
Okay. Yeah, of course. Please continue.
Yeah, the CFA application was not funded again this year, so keep on trying. I did help with the grant. This was through the U.S. Agriculture for the Housing Authority. We put in for about $160,000 for repairs. That was restricted to health and safety repairs at the Housing Authority. So it's a national grant though, so not very optimistic, but we put it in. And this, I don't know if Janet was in the public forum. Okay. Jen and I have been working on doing a public forum. This is on the issue of temporary outdoor, mostly eating structures on Main Street, things like tents, and just to get the public's input on what kind of, do we want them, do we not want them, restrictions, conditions, anything like that. So that's going to be February 26th. That's all I have.
Thanks, Dave. All right. Kathy, you're here, aren't you? Yeah. You're up. Oh,
You all hopefully have the report, put it in there on the weekend. The only thing I just wanted to bring your attention to, we are gathering quotes to do our flooring, the indoor carpet at the visitor center. We've got 2 with another installer coming to give us an installation quote this week. And we're working on a 3rd, but we'll have those ready for you next month.
great. Any questions for Kathy, guys? Perfect. Thank you. Next up is the planning board and Janet.
By December, we didn't have a quorum. Sickness of board unexpected absences, so my summary includes that, and then a review of the full year. It was parallel to last year with 22 site plan review approvals, 6 special permit approvals, and 2 minor subdivisions, so kind of staying on the same track as in previous years. And then I added additional comments, just echoing what I said last year, and I think the year before, keeping track of what's going on with Madison Barracks subdivision, getting that final the approvals agreed upon, and the infrastructure agreement agreed upon in terms of maintenance guarantees and things like that, so it's not insane. And then another item related to that is our zoning law includes the development districts. We don't have a current accurate map of Madison Barracks. And a couple of years ago, when they started selling lots of properties, I was concerned that somebody would buy a property and then say, well, can I do this or that? And we wouldn't have an official record of what we say the planned development district allows for in that structure. That's a big deal because it includes mapping, for professional agency, you know, like, or organization like GIMO, they were helping already work on that, but it should be finished up really, because we're left without a tool. And it used to be that we could say to Mike Campbell at Madison Barracks, hey, what's your map say for this? And he would willingly share that, but he's no longer working for them and properties have been sold, so it just kind of throws the ball back in our court. We want to be in charge of where we move with Madison Barracks. So that's, I think, personally, I think that's an important piece of the.
What does that process look like? Does Dave
It's.
need to talk to GIMO and?
It'll take a while
Yeah.
because it's reviewing maps and then also we have had amendments to, there were some amendments to PDD that may not have been filed, and Dave and Peggy those, or you know, looking, trying to find records of what was officially filed. We just need to verify that amendments that we think were made really were filed with the state fire attorney, and that we have a map that we concur is what we think is allowed in each structure. That's the barracks, and then we make sure our zoning law has all that packaged in. So how much money, I don't know. But, you know, there's legal fees for sure, and some mapping fees. So that's another thing, I don't want to be a bug about it, but it's important to planning documents. And then as the last thing was adding that similar to the temporary uses structures that Dave referenced, idea of having a public forum, because it shouldn't be the planning board, can't be the planning board that decide that, and it's really the village board that would make any amendments to the zoning law, but kind of important. We think temporary uses are good, a little more than a weekend, like we would want to have tent up for on 4 or 5 lots downtown all summer and 1 or 2 all winter. It's not consistent with our historic regulations. If we think that's a good idea, then maybe we need to change historic regulations, or maybe we need to make an amendment that provides provisions for what is a safe and somewhat attractive use of a temporary structure. And then the last one is our historic district is very irregular in its boundaries, and it doesn't align with the National Register district. And we kind of came to light this year that property in the community, Washington Street, is sold, and some work's being done on it. And the purchaser, it's very much concerned about the structure, and we hate to see it fall into ruins. But if somebody bought that didn't respect the significance of that structure, there is no protection in our zoning law really for that as an important structure. I could buy it and want to put vinyl siding on it, I could do that. I could tear down the chimneys, I could put a A-frame roof on it. No protection for some of our historic structures. That's the way our historic map is. So that's something
It's because it's outside the historic district. No.
Right, and I don't think people realize that. And I think if somebody else had purchased that and started doing things and, cutting trees, that created an uproar. Well, what would it do? If they put in windows that were very consistent with the structure, or it's like people would be upset. It's like, I didn't know that. I didn't know they could do that. Yep. So I think it's worth, and that boundary was made in the 80s or late 70s. And there were reasons that I don't know, but that's why it was made the way it was. 86. But it might be important to look at that, or there are other alternatives for that. So I just think it's important to bring awareness to that and at some point address it by the greater community.
Janet, I'm
Yes,
assuming that when the original overlay district was created, there was a set of criteria that was used. Do you know if that's something we could get eyes on?
I don't know. Dave may know. I think.
I'm not sure there was.
I think.
Okay.
I mean, the criteria to me should have been, the only criteria really that was relevant was the National Register District, right? Because that was research that was established. It didn't follow that, and, so there was a reason that decisions were made for it not to follow that. But I've never seen any criteria, and I doubted it.
And basically, it probably came down to certain individuals who didn't want their property in there and didn't want scrutiny on their property.
Right.
Who's gonna tell me what I can't do? And, but it was approved and we do have that and we are trying to uphold that. But it's very irregular.
Yeah, I know. And I'm thinking if we want to undertake something like that, we would need some type of objective
Right,
criteria to
right.
to go by, not what you're saying as well.
Well,
Leave it up to the, personal preferences.
right. There are some other alternatives, Dave and I've been having this local landmark designation where somebody could voluntarily say, or a group would say, we recommend this and the owner consent. Like the owner of that stone structure would probably willingly do that, but then it gives the structure more validity. So when something comes up for review, it's like, well, this is a local landmark. We really don't want you to do that. Now, how much weight that would have in it?
Yeah, I think it'd be difficult to do counter to a current owner's consent because
Right.
you're encumbering their property.
Be able to grandfather, like, I feel like if you already own it and it's not designated as it, I think it would be not really appropriate to kind of go back and be like, oh, wait, this is supposed to be on the, you know what I mean? Because they already own it and they didn't know ahead of time.
I think the only teeth you might have would be the National Register.
Right.
I mean, it's hard to justify at some point too, because you're saying, hey, this property you thought was worth X, all of a sudden now you can only maintain it using subset of options that are more expensive. So it's not a small ask to go to somebody and
And
change.
it might be outside
value of
someone's
it.
budget that they
Right.
didn't already know.
Yeah.
Alex, that has changed a lot from 30, 40 years ago when those projects or boundaries were put in place. The Secretary of Interior standards were talking about that, like everybody was a Williamsburg. Well, that's changed. We allow vinyl fences, we allow vinyl siding, we allow smart board, we allow replacement windows. It's not like, oh, you have
Sure.
to do it like you're in Williamsburg. It's not that at all. You want it to look like the windows should look like they were intended for that structure,
Sure.
not something from 1975.
I sat on the board. I had one of those seats when it was adopted. It was a political lines. It was very contentious. And at the end of the day, it was politically drawn lines. Just trying to grab as much of the historic sections of the village that we could without reaching out and creating.
Losing public
I think
support.
you'll find it be very contentious to reach out without criteria like Greg mentioned, to grab other properties and put those additional restrictions at.
Well, that's what I was thinking. If someone came to me and I wasn't on the registry and then they said, oh, now you are and you have, I would be like, what? You know?
One last thing is, it worked.
Yeah, no, I don't misunderstand the purpose. It's just that, it's hard to do without consent of the person who owns the property.
Yeah. Is there any sense for how many of these properties might be out
I
there?
don't have that offhand. It just, that jumped out at me this fall when that one.
Yeah, that one's kind of an obvious one, but I don't know, because I've looked at that district boundary and I'm thinking, how did they come up with this?
Well, can I speak, because I think people misunderstand the boundary. If you look at it, it is
Yeah.
like, but then, because it really goes by the backyard line of the property. So it's basically, the historic overlay district is most of the properties that found on West Main Street, North Broad Street, those are the two key, and then everything to the water. So, okay, if you're on West Main Street and, so your front on West Main Street, your backyard may be, 10 feet less than your neighbor. So that's why it goes like this, there's very few times, there's a little bit out on East Main Street where it kind of zigzags around. But anyway, but the criteria really should be, if any, the National Register District. There was a lot of research. We have that line. We know where that line is, which once again is zigzaggy because of, for the same reason. But I think the challenge is going to be a way to really protect the historic buildings that need to be protected, like that stone. And some others, and not burden other people who maybe not need the same.
I mean, it may just be a matter of getting consent from the people that own those houses currently, and some of them maybe would like, I'm drawing a blank on the name, but he may be very willing to just opt into.
Can we change the list
The
if
deed
they're,
restriction.
if they want to be on the list? Can we add them?
I'm sure it's a process.
It would be
Well, if-
zoning and
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, and we're gonna present this, or at least this landmark law. Be a way, okay, you would pass it, and then it would be a process by which people could have their property designated as a
Okay,
landmark.
so then it's a choice, not
Well,
us
it could-
telling
it
them.
could be, yeah, but
Okay.
anyway, just one of those big picture planning things, like the Bears map in terms of zoning and the temporary structures and uses on Main Street.
Yep.
And probably other places, and then the historic district.
Hey, Shannon, any other questions for Shannon? All right, after planning board, we have BCA.
Guys have noticed, the Hamilton Street handrails were installed last week.
I was just told.
I saw the pictures.
So,
I haven't
yeah.
walked over yet.
So it looks good, so that
Looks
was
nice.
complete. So Market Square Park, back in November, we had submitted a for.
Yep.
Not sure if you had a chance to review it, but, basically what it came down to was ready LWRP and FEMA, coordination, kind of ran over on that line.
It's the fourth doc, guys, with the first one with their colored.
And it's just been, I think, Dave, it's been kind of a long process, longer than we anticipated. I think partly because we had a change with personnel kind of halfway through, which kind of makes the process a little bit more difficult, but those were the kind of main topics we had this coordination.
Yeah, I think this is the one that I didn't manage to send these guys before the November meeting, and then we had a kind of skeleton crew last month.
Yep.
So I think you guys have had this in your, it's the fourth one. It's the one with the colored up the right, the red corner. Yeah. And it should say amendment number 4 in the I just wanted everyone to get a look at this because it was a payment amendment before I signed it. So we discussed it. It's a service adjustment. But I wanted to get it in front of everybody.
Sorry, so what was the service? What was the additional services required?
Service is just additional budget to those services.
Because you guys need more hours to do something?
Correct, yes. And some of those are anticipated future hours, goes out ready, and some of the FEMA stuff as well.
So it's a $9,600 adjustment is the amount. And we talked about it before, but I didn't.
Do you need a motion for us to sign this or just
I think so.
make a motion that Alex signs amendment number 4 for these?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
On to Brown Shores, so Shores was completed December 13th. And they submitted their payment application number 1 for almost 187,000. I have a substantial completion certificate for signature for you to sign after the meeting. I also have a change order number 3 from Howas, which it just changes the time extension because the original extension was to December 6th. And they actually took them till the 13th, so it's kind of a formality just to get all the dates to line up for the funding.
You're asking for more time, not more money, right?
More time in the past.
Cost change.
In past, that already happened.
Okay. And Lynn, you've got, I didn't get down there for the substantial completion meeting for this one. You were
Yeah.
down there with them, everything's
I mean,
good.
it was basically the startup. So everything's kind of.
Oh, yeah, the lift station is awesome. Just some landscaping is all I can see really.
Yep.
Had to do.
They didn't want to do that today or? Okay.
One thing is Shannon was handling, or the treasurer was handling the ready disbursement requests for the Brown Shores portion.
Yep.
I've kind of gone back and forth with Dennis about trying to track down kind of where that was left off. I don't know if that's something that the village still wants to handle and do those disbursement requests, or you would like BCA to assist with that.
What do you think? Dennis, is it a lot of work left or?
Yeah, it
Was
was
the older ones?
kind of hit or miss with what.
I can help assist BCA.
Sure.
I mean, because I was with
I think
Shannon.
you had done it with Shannon. I
Yeah.
believe,
Yeah. But then Shannon did the last few couple without me because she just did it after.
Is there a problem with the ones that she did, or is it because there's been
No,
lag
it's just-
after
So
that?
this project started with one scope and then the money was left over and it went to another
Yep.
scope. So it's just kind of picking up where that was left off, so there's $186,000 from Powis that could be, applied for disbursement.
Yep.
95% of that
Yeah.
should be reimbursed,
And that's
because the ready was 95.5.
Yep.
I can help
Okay.
Brandon and Corey
Yeah,
throw
that
it together.
works for me if it works for you guys.
It's not a huge lift. I mean,
No.
I think it's power we're submitting. It's not a bunch of other things.
Right.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I'd say at this point, I'd rather have Dennis working with Belinda to get her up to speed on the stuff he knows than having him try to learn something new at the end,
Feels comfortable. Do that, then I would.
I could give a
If you're
hand.
okay with that.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
can give it.
Okay. Sounds good, guys.
There is money in the budget to kind of, help out. So.
Okay.
So within the report here, there's kind of a breakdown of what's remaining. With the Powis final contract, we anticipate will be, so the DPW also purchased some valves to replace for the pump station. We anticipate those being able to be dispersed or covered by funding. So that leaves, this was kind of, there's like $71,500, $531. If you subtract the remaining BCA invoices from that, roughly 20 grand, $51,000 of that grant left over to use.
This is the one where we tried to move that funding over like 15 times and they just didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there was a wish list way back when, and they kind of said no to a lot of them and allowed this.
That's where that valve failed. We were able to get like a spare, or not the valve, the VFD, didn't that? Was that?
VFD. They paid for the VFD once
Yeah.
and they said they will not pay for it again.
Okay.
It was already included in the project,
Okay.
but we tried. Because before we'd asked,
Oh, yeah, I remember.
money,
Yeah.
let's get an electric truck, solar panels, this, that, new pump station, and they bought on the new pump station, but everything else was a no. Out of that 50,000, there's still some work remaining out of that. I mean, there's some restoration, some inspection here and there, but there's gonna be some money left over. Try to put another wish list together. I mean, there was some shrubbery that was removed to do the foundation. That's probably a simple one to put back some shrubs. Show that, if you want to do that, but Just trying to think of other.
Yeah, they haven't,
It's
we
gotta
tried,
be- It's gotta be utilized for the Brown Shores Road project.
we tried to move it during, because when we, before, Dave had gotten that latest, I forget which group
Yeah,
got the money for,
LWRP.
yeah, the LWRP. We were trying to move funds over to make up the difference on the Market Square Park, and they really would not bite on it at all. Then when the VFD that was purchased for this project broke, they would not let us repurchase it in the grant fund. So they've been pretty inflexible with reallocating funds, but I'm sure they'll be fine with like landscaping scope, but it's not gonna eat.
It's not gonna.
It likely isn't the case that we can find a way to effectively use that money and it'll just get returned, but it's due to the fact that the grant was a pretty big match, and then I guess we just been a little more efficient than we needed to be, but there's no sense in spending the money.
Well, that's why they approved the building
Right.
with those.
Yeah, we wouldn't have been able to get the shed around it if we
Yeah,
hadn't been.
yeah.
Well, the bids results, I mean, Powell's came in about 40,000 lower than the second bidder, so that helped out immensely. Otherwise, it's a zero.
Right.
So is that would, along the lake shore and the riverfront projects that have been completed coming under budget, do you know? It's the money left over being returned or?
Well, just never
Like saying
reimbursed.
go.
We didn't get it in the first place, right?
Oh, okay.
We submit our expenses, they reimburse us, so
Okay.
it's just money we don't submit
It's
for.
money
We
left
did.
on the table that we don't use.
Right.
Right.
I told you guys we should have gone with the gold plated shed.
Okay.
Yeah, but no, but it sounds like we still have an opportunity. So if you guys work together and you find an opportunity to maybe spend some of this money, come back and propose it, we can maybe.
Yeah, there's things we can do, but just from the conversations we've had, I was on the call a few times because I just thought I'd ask in 5 different ways after they tried to see if I could wear them down. It didn't really work, but, so I think we probably will end up with some leftover regardless of, we'll, try to use.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard to spend that amount, I guess. It's 95% grant. We'll try everything we can. If there's any other spare parts we could buy, we can try. All I can say is no.
Len needs a new backhoe to be stationed right next to it in case something happens, right? So.
Well, literally, the original design that we had proposed was a pump house and a garage so that we could then justify the truck that went in the garage, and they were like, get out of here. Yeah, anyways. So I think we do need or was this included in the bills? Yeah, it was. Okay, so we're good on that. Okay. What else from you guys?
On the water intake, just have a reimbursement request, Alex, for you to sign so we can get money from the WQIP. It's like 267.
Yeah.
Yep. Get that signed afterwards, we get that disbursement.
Yep.
Yeah, we mentioned the icing of intake. Water upgrades on the streets, Alex. I don't know if you were gonna talk about the conversation we had with Leah as far as the debriefing on that.
Yeah, we can, we might as well chat about it now. We essentially, what we agreed to do, will help towards next year's WIA grants. And unless we are finished with the project, which we won't be, we can still apply for it and use the award to back reimburse for planning. And being under contract for the engineering was like a small credit, but if we are actually in the process of doing the engineering, they view that as a stronger signal. So it does mean, we probably only have 1 or 2 more cracks at this before we're just going to end up having done it ourselves by starting, but they seemed optimistic about it.
Yeah, they just continue to say project readiness. If your project's ready to go to bid, they look at it, they're a lot closer. Some projects they fund and some don't have. They don't ever share their point score. They have an internal point score that they keep out.
Right.
They give you kind of pointers. Hey, if you do this, project readiness, if you have letters from businesses or residents that are affected, those help out. Just submitting all that stuff will help future funding applications. Yeah, I had stuff on massive barracks and down that study, but
We also have a video of the new intake to go along with that too. So it's on a flash drive here.
Nice.
That, but.
I think I have probably the office has
I'd like to see it.
I think that's the one that Mikey tried playing before. I said I'd give him a new one because it was so. I don't know if it's a software or not.
Our Google Drive has like infinite space, so.
You actually stick that into the
In there.
computer, then, you know.
It's his computer. It's his office. That's what the problem is.
That's not where it goes.
It's not a vape. All right. Cool. No other questions for PCA?
You're off easy this month.
All right. Let's do that. Then let's move on. All right, next up is Peggy.
We have been very busy trying to switch our water billing program. They always say, oh, this will be seamless. They lie. We've had a lot of manual entries that have been to read. So it's been hugely tedious.
And just to remind everyone, this was not a intentional timing choice. The previous software got bought out and they gave us not very much time to say, hey, you can buy our new, more expensive version, or you can go find something new. We had about a month to do it and it lined up with water billing, which wasn't ideal, but it was out of our control.
So we're finally at a level point where we have to work the next 6 weeks so that we will be able to bill. So it just did not transfer. So that's all we've been doing.
All righty. Thanks, Peggy. Any questions for the office? All right, we got, next up is community orgs. Anything from?
Wasn't able to be here today in the chamber, but he just asked that we relay that we are now working on the visitor guide for this coming year. And that should be out.
Sounds good. Thanks. Do you have anything from the historical society?
No, not really, no.
Yeah, start lining up acts for the summer yet?
Yeah, oh yeah, we're just about. We just have
Oh, nice. Great. Very cool. I don't think we have anybody on Zoom from an org, library or anything. Okay. We'll move on to board reports. Oh, well, actually we have, is Connie here? Not on Zoom. Yep, so she's got her report here for the village historian as well. All right. Let's go into board reports. So we got the committee appointments. I figured we got the same team here. We'll stick through what we've been doing, if that's okay with anybody. Anyone wants something different or thinks we should change, we can talk about it now or talk about it offline, whatever you guys prefer.
I would like clarification on what my assignment.
Sure.
So we can do that offline with.
Yeah.
Everybody knows. That would be extraordinarily helpful.
Okay, yeah, we'll go through it.
Okay.
Let me know. Just text me and we'll sync
Okay.
up. Sounds good. All right. We got a couple other things. First up, Navy Point. This is just a general FYI. They told me, in case someone asks, they have a lot of caution tape and a few parts of their docks taped off into the ice. They wanted us to know that they understand they don't own the lake. They're running a bubbler near one of their nicer docks and they don't want him to fall through the ice that they're intentionally keeping from forming. They're also working on a couple other things. So they've flagged off not all of their docks, but just a few to keep people from going where it's not safe for ice fishing. So if anyone asks you why they've got tape all over the ice, that's why. And if you yourself are out there, don't fall through and go there. Let's see. I've got a infrastructure agreement draft from Mike Yankovic for, do we have a name for that development, Dave? Or Janet?
It was at Harbor Haven.
Harbor Haven, okay. So it's over at the west side of Sunnyside. There was a 15-year ago, 10-year ago, when was the approval? There's an old subdivision approval for not a cul-de-sac, but like a horseshoe road. And that's been purchased by a new developer who is planning to proceed. He sent over the IA based on the Lakeview draft. I suggested he get a copy of that from the office and work with that as a template. I've chatted with Janet a little bit about it. The next steps, I'm gonna send that over to Corey and Brandon and Lynn and have them look it over for any major issues that they find. Once they're happy with it from like a systems perspective, that'll be it for us to look at. Really the only thing that's outside of our normal subdivision scope is the same trails for sidewalks as Lakeview. It's a marginally profitable deal. They're kind of on the cusp of whether or not it would make sense to do. So they're building small like starter homes. And I think it's a type of home we don't have a lot of in the village. So it'd be a good asset to have. And I've been trying to help work with them on where we're allowed to and can save them cost. And given that it's not a road through anywhere, I don't know what do you call it, but it's not a cul-de-sac, but like a horseshoe. It starts and ends. The only road it goes to is itself. So we talked about maybe putting a trail easement behind the houses instead of on the road, since it's not a through road. But that's the only thing that's currently in there that's an exception to our normal subdivision rules. But just wanted you guys to know about that. And our new treasurer is starting on February 5th. So she's got a few weeks, work with both Dennis and Mr. Uhas to get up to speed and hopefully can help dig us out of the backlog that we're in. I got a meeting tomorrow with Text My Gov is the firm that I got in touch with. I looked for,
On-site people.
yeah, they're,
That's
from what I
the
can
people
find,
that
their
Evans
min
knows.
price is a little high for us.
The government one was the one that was too high.
Okay, maybe I'm mixing up the two because the names don't mean anything, but
The gov.gov, that
Okay.
one was almost twice as much as what
Okay.
Evans Mills had.
okay,
He's referring to a mass communication tool to our residents. I work in Evans Mills and they have one that they reach out to their residents. People can sign up for email, text messaging. They can choose the service that they want. So if we have a water main break, we can send out a message to everyone that says there's a water main break at this road or whatever. Phone was the other way, that if you
Yeah.
call them if they wanted to. I went in to talk to the people at Evans Mills. They highly recommended the company. Said they were very easy to work with. It's very simple to use. So Alex and I were looking into at least getting a price before we do the budget so that we can figure in for the next budget cycle if that's something we want
yeah,
to include. I would like, honestly, to get some of the village municipal information off from Facebook, because I feel like a lot of people reach out to Facebook that like they're asking questions, expecting one of us to answer.
like an official,
And I
yeah.
feel like we should not be doing it in that way. I feel like we should really be
Yeah.
a more formal. I don't know, I just don't want to get us in trouble by one of us saying something that's wrong, which usually is me. And I don't want to get in trouble. So I just would rather have a better avenue.
Yeah, and like our official newsletter is nice, but there are people who don't use Facebook or email, and when Kelly brought this up probably 3 weeks ago with me, and one of the reasons I thought it was particularly a good idea was the option to have the dialer. So if we have a resident who doesn't text but wants to be on the list, it will actually call them and robo read them the notice so they can answer their phone or to leave them a voicemail or an answering machine.
Maybe it's a weather alert that, the power's out. We can tell the entire community that the warming center's open. right? I don't know, I was just trying to think of a way. I just saw that and I thought it was like,
Yeah.
oh, I didn't know one of those even existed. That would be much better than us answering things on,
Yeah, we know we're missing
we're missing a ton. There's
a segment of the community. But how do you, is it AI generated, the messages?
No,
We would input it ourselves. So whatever the message is,
Okay.
it would be one of us or the office or whatever
Okay.
would be able to send it and that's the message that would go out.
And the one that I've dug into more, and I'm sure they all do this, has like tiers. So you can say, I want to sign up only for emergencies. I don't care about your events. I don't care about your contests. I just want to know if something's on fire. And then you can opt into like the newsletter / emergency, which will make it easier for people to say yes. And I think
I want
we'll
to say
get more
Evans
usage.
Mills said it was like $1,500 a year. That was the price they gave me. But it was so many residents, and I can't remember what the number is, but I have the person's name, their contact. So we were hoping to kind of get a demo, but of
Yeah,
course
I
they tried to call during the school day
Yeah.
and I couldn't answer.
I put in for them to
So I tried
get
Alex to do it.
that, but the other one, they answered me quicker, so that's why. But we need a few quotes anyway, so I figured I'd look
Okay.
at a few different options, but I'm
Yeah.
working
She
on
emailed
it.
me today, so I'll give her literally right before.
Do they, do you know if they do the initial outreach to see who wants?
They will train staff, however, they'll train whoever we designate as the person to do it. On how to do it. It's like sending a text message or you type it into a computer and it sends it out. So
Right,
it's
but no, but
Signing
but who
people up
makes the
is-
initial,
yeah.
Approach?
Uh,
How do we reach out to everybody?
I would assume that they would give us some format that maybe we would mail. I don't know. Well, that's part of what we need to.
Honestly, it might be it wouldn't be a terrible student project to say, go to people's homes whose demographics suggest they might not be on Facebook and knock on doors during the summer and say, this is a community program or if you want to sign up your phone number. Also, I think my understanding of like the robodial law is that for emergency services through a municipality, we don't need explicit consent. So we could just take the landlines that are in the water system and sign people up and make opting out really easy. And just say like, hey, everyone, we put you in here. If there's like a water main break or a water quality issue, or we've got like a boil alert, or there's going to be a power outage for a long time, we're going to message you. You can opt out and here's how, and then we just opt every phone number we have in. It's a little annoying, but we can also filter it and say, when I've looked at the water billing before to like text people that they're showing up on like the leak alert. It's the 646 designation makes it pretty obvious who's got a landline still in the system. And a lot of those landlines are dead, right? There are people who no longer have a landline. So anyone who still has a landline, it'd be someone who maintains a house phone at 646. They probably wouldn't be annoyed if we loaded them in. So there'd be a few ways to do it, but.
We're just exploring it and I was hoping to have a price when we sat down to do the budget. We could talk about it more,
Yeah.
but I would like to have a
Sure.
set.
Well, I think it's a great idea. I just, my concern is the concern we've had all along is how do we cast that net?
Yeah.
And I want to say Evans Mills was dealing with getting people to sign up. So I think that would be something we would have to address and figure out at some point.
Yeah.
Word of mouth.
Figure it out, yeah.
We can
Because the hard part won't
bring
be
an iPad to the.
the initial net, it will be the maintenance, right? People come, people go.
Yeah.
How do I get a new citizen, involved?
Right.
Well, I'm sure we can figure it out though.
People come in for water, so there's a good touch point for a new member. It's the hardest part is people who've been here forever and don't want to look at the internet. Right, or aren't on
There's
our
gotta be a way that we could print it on the water bill though.
Yeah.
It could only be like 2 sentences
That's
to be
true.
like, sign up for our new
Automated voice,
communication
yeah.
tool or
Yeah.
whatever. I don't know.
There is on the old water bill. I'm not so sure.
We'll find out. We'll get a stamp.
Figure it out. Or
Put it on the back.
yeah, whatever.
All right, and my last note was I did a little legwork after chatting with you about the term duration.
Yeah.
So I talked to Jim today and actually mostly talking to him about the fun at Watertown. We started off talking about this. Greg had mentioned, and I mean, we've all talked about, it's a pain in the neck, deciding if you're going to run again only a few months after you started a term. And it takes really a few terms to get up to speed on all our systems. And if we have high turnover, the effectiveness of the board will suffer for it. And in New York, it's a local choice, whether you have 2 or 4 year terms. So Jim and I chatted, the process to change it is just a law. It does require a referendum. It's not if I'm gonna get the word wrong, it's not a permissive referendum where people can choose to sign something. We legally have to have either a special election or have it on the ballot during a normal election. If we wanted to change the term limits from 2 to 4 for the board. If we do that at this election, it would not take effect until the following election. If we wanted it to take effect in this November, we'd actually need to decide pretty immediately because it needs to be done before the deadline for committing to run for office. So the people who are running for the board know if they're running for a 2 or 4 year. I don't know that we want to try and rush it, but it's something worth looking at just to, it solves a few problems. It does create a few others. It's a longer term commitment. And maybe fewer people interested in signing up for such a thing. But it's something to think about. And if we wanted it to take effect for next term, we'd need to move probably within a month or 2. If we don't, we can take our time and decide if we want to put it on this November's ballot. I'm not super keen on figuring out how to run a special election just for that. So I think it probably makes more sense to put it on November if we want to, but I just wanted to bring it up. It's entirely up to us whether we have 2 or 4 year terms and whether or not we have term limits. We can have 2 term limits with 4 year terms. We can have no term limits. You can have whatever you like.
On the door
No.
to come do this job. I'm afraid if we're only allowed 2 terms, you're gonna have no one running the village.
So the main thing is it's not a prescriptive, like we're not mandated to do it a certain way by the state. They give us quite a few options. So it is up to us if we decide it's worth changing. But it would require actively people voting on yes or no to that, like on a ballot, like be on the back of the ballot if we did it during a regular election. And I think that's all I have. Any other questions from you guys? Great. All right, Ron, you're up next.
I'll be quick this month, nothing to report from the LDC front. From the Park and Rec Committee, or the Rec Committee as we're now known as. We did talk a little bit about the skating rink. I'll go back to those guys next month and we'll come back to this board with some solutions. They also want me to pass along the news that, a lot of you guys don't know this, we're almost in a legal battle with Watertown. They don't want to release us from their little league. It's silly.
Still?
It's silly, but they asked me to escalate it to our lawyer. I said, I don't need to spend lawyer funds on find a different way to do it. They did. So the way to get us out of it is create our own charter. So right now, the village is looking at maybe creating their own little league charter.
We'd have a really high stakes little league game.
That's what I'm saying.
Winner takes all.
Winner takes all.
the league.
This is
I
it.
understand. Don't worry.
I don't know. It's
They're little kids.
exactly. So we could leave the water. We could just not participate and join the TIBC baseball league, but we don't want to do that. We kind of want to be in the little league structure
Oh, I
under their umbrella. Yeah. But we would have to create our own charter and we have to invite surrounding communities to make their own teams, have our own league. And that's what they're looking at doing right now for our village. That is all I have pending your questions.
Do you have enough players? Like, how does that work with?
We'll have enough player for our village team and then Belleville would have a team and then Brownville would have a little league
So they're
team.
trying to create a
So
league
we would have
of-
our own little league charter. Yeah.
That baseball and softball.
Softball is on the TIBC still, right?
Yeah, little league, just baseball. Yeah. And we go to TIBC in South Jeff for our softball programs. So, and I do want to talk to you guys and I will work with the rec committee about those limits when it comes to spending anything beyond a certain threshold. In my mind, $1,000 has to come to this board for approval. Okay.
Thank you.
So I will talk to them about that. That is it now, pending your questions.
Thanks, Ron. Ellie?
Mine's pretty short also, just letting you know that the fire department had over 400 calls for the year of 2024, which is pretty big for them. I did talk to them a little bit about some of the people questioning the siren when it goes off, not understanding that it's a call. maybe doing some education regarding that, that's like, we are required by the state to have a way to send out an alarm to people. It's not a tornado, it's not, from people that come from other
Yeah.
areas, it means different things, and I get that. So they said something about maybe doing some education, whether it's in our.
The state requires a audible siren?
Yes.
Okay.
Because the question was, they all have pagers, so the
Yeah.
call goes to their phone or their pager,
Mhm.
but they still need a way to tell the residents that there's an emergency.
Oh, like,
The state
don't get in
requires
the
it.
way of.
Yeah,
Mm.
they're in the process to
Is
like.
there a decibel? I mean, like, if it's just for
I
notifying
will
people
tell you, I
on.
live very close to it. It's very annoying when it goes off 5 times in the middle of the night, so I can attest it's very annoying. Which is why I'm constantly saying, are you sure you need it? Cause I really don't think, I know it goes to Joel's pager, cause I listen to that and I hear the siren go
Sure.
off, so I know it's working.
Yeah,
So we're in the process of like, is it really a law? Is it not? But I'm talking to
Okay.
them about that. And to the boat should be in the water this summer. It's fixed. They finally got the part. They had to order the part from Italy.
all right.
They finally found the part that was, they bought a boat that they could not find the parts to in America. They found some Marine, somebody in Florida that knew how to find it, and he ordered it from Italy. So it's repaired. They have to test it in the water. Obviously, they can't test it in the water now, so they have to wait till spring. So it's in Syracuse right now, but it should be
Great.
working and in the water. And that's all I have.
They didn't have to go pick it up.
No, but they had to pay, I don't know, like $150 to have it shipped here
Yeah.
from Italy.
All right. Anything else for Kelly, guys? Any questions? Greg?
Just, an update on the, draft resolutions for the capital reserve funds. I thought we were gonna have them review and would sign, but we're not there.
I did look up that book.
We got time. I mean, we just need
Yeah.
it done by the end of the fiscal year, so.
Yeah,
I got some input on that too, Craig. That I'd like to share with the board. I think that's a budget, kind of a budget issue, right? Yeah.
We need to have it before we go into budgeting season, which is.
right, because it's being funded from last year's, or
Yeah.
this current year
Right.
budget, which is,
We just need it done before the end of the
Before
fiscal
the
year.
end of
Right.
this.
Yeah.
So May.
Yeah.
but, you know how things.
Yeah. No, I,
Losing stuff. so
aiming
I'm
for
trying to keep
February is a
bringing it
good,
up
a good
because-
plan.
yeah.
I agree. Or well, I think.
So, and I did send those to you,
Yes.
not Google Docs,
That's, yeah.
yeah,
Our
your
February-
software of choice. I had it on my old computer, the Word document I sent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Our next meeting's in 3 weeks, so it's quick.
Okay.
Quick round.
That's all I had.
Any addition to what Corey said as far as the infrastructure agreement, we still, any additional comments? I guess I saw the note about the,
They've got to make that drainage repair.
so nothing.
I reached out to, Dave Gertson, attorney on the legal side, and he said, what he relayed to me was that response is that they still have to fix the drainage. Doesn't sound like they're gonna be submitting the documentation until they take care of the road repair. I would think they'd have all of that drafted, but
I think we said no when they asked for the extension last time anyways, because it needs to be.
Well, they wanted, their ask was to
They wanted to extend.
didn't want to remove the bond or.
Oh, that's
just
what it
shrink the
was.
bond
Okay.
from the 600 to like 50 or around where the cost is. Cause Corey had said it was like a $25,000 ballpark. But we already denied it, and I have a,
And they
bond.
didn't resubmit, right?
They
well, they had to, no, they had to redo the bond.
Oh.
It wasn't, that's how that's like, the bond is our insurance against them not doing the work. So it's, the
Alright.
bond agency won't release them until we tell them.
Okay.
And I did get their, like the bond agency's, questionnaire. Yeah, so I had asked Corey a couple questions about it. I will send it back, but essentially I'm just saying, you know, we haven't taken, it's a question asking, like, have we paid them? But we're not paying them, they're turning over the land. So was I was a little confused about the wording, but Corey gave me what I need, so I don't think there's anything on it. So.
And it's simple trench drain, right? That's the fix.
What you proposed. I see they haven't gotten back to you, right?
No,
Haven't gone back, no.
they sent you the proposal of the trench drain.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then
And they would do it when they got to it.
Well, they can't now.
Right.
questions, comments I sent to
Yeah.
that board, which I've not heard.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Anything else for Greg, guys?
That was it. Thanks, Greg.
All right, Sarah.
I was gonna say, was she officially a member yet to actually go?
This morning.
Until, oh,
This
I was like,
morning,
in that case,
yeah.
she's off the hook.
Yeah, you've been a board member again for 7 hours, I think, or whenever. When did Jean drop by?
1 o'clock.
All right, 6 hours. All right. Tank report, nothing new. We don't have a lot of infiltration this time of year. Well, in November either. So it's 8 million gallons metered and 5 put through the wastewater plant. All right. On to what everyone's here for. So I'm gonna kind of move things around and go out of order here on the old business because we're missing some stuff and there's some stuff being scratched off. So I'm gonna start with the Main Street discussion, guys. I'm gonna just give a quick summary from me, and then if the board wants to jump in, and then we'll open the floor to people for questions, comments, suggestions, et cetera. So the long and short of it is we're looking at changing some of the traffic patterns on Main Street to increase pedestrian safety, slow speed, open the road for clearance during the summer. Doesn't take much but 2 non-perfect parallel parks cars to make that kind of a canyon. We've struggled with boat traffic coming down. Technically, they're supposed to go down Washington. We don't really have good signage for it. No amount of signage, I think, would actually cause most people to change their behavior because they're not going to see it. So it solves a few things to change some of the way Main Street works. And the suggestions we've had, or the ideas we've had to do, involve a 4-way stop at Broad, a 4-way stop at Ambrose, and the big change would be making Main Street 1-way going into the village. The biggest comments we've gotten were, oh, that's going to put a lot of traffic on Washington, which right now, if a delivery truck comes down Main Street, in most cases, if they want to deliver to businesses on the right, they come down Main, they do their deliveries, and then they do turn out Washington because they're not doing a U-turn and coming back up Main. If they want to deliver to businesses on the coming back up the hill on their right, they come down Washington, turn in and come out. So there will be probably some increase, but the most change on Washington will be the directionality. It'll change more traffic to be leaving the village through Washington than coming in. But I don't think it should necessarily move that much industrial traffic because those larger vehicles already can't turn around and come back up Main. But we've had different pros and cons. I don't know if anyone here has spoken with people. I know I've had 3 or 4 people stop me and ask me questions about it and give me their, whether they're pro or con and what they think and what their questions are. But
I've had a lot of people say that they don't like the idea of 1-way going down Main Street. Which I can see reasons why, I can understand why. I've had some people recommend the 4-way stops. And I think one of them said something about like a temporary speed bump to slow people down, which I'm tending to more like that idea. The whole, some people have said if we make it 1-way, it won't necessarily slow people down. It's going to be an open road for them to go quicker. The fire department did say if we make it 1-way and cars are on this side of the road and there's a fire on this side of the road, that makes it harder for the truck to get.
like diagonal parking.
Correct.
Yeah.
That puts them further away from the housing structure to be able to potentially put out a fire. So just throwing those things out there. I've had a lot of people more in line with some additional signage, stop signs. But I'm open, maybe somebody else has an idea that we haven't thought of, that's what I'm looking for tonight.
Yeah.
I'm hoping, I'm not set on any one idea. I'm really not. I do think we need to do something. And maybe we need to just try something smaller this year to see if it works. And if it works, great, and then we don't have to do any more. I don't know. I'm open to ideas.
Yeah, and one of the reasons this came up was, we've had a few people come and complain about getting across the street, for visibility reasons. And even with stop signs, we're pretty busy place in the summer. People cross the street at different places. The street's not just for cars. I don't think it's necessarily a compliance problem on that end, but one of the nice things about changing to parking on one side, which the fire obviously is an issue, and I would have to see, there are lots of streets that have diagonal parking, so how do they handle that? Maybe we don't have the right equipment for it. I don't know.
I mean, we have a ladder truck. I just don't know what the
Yeah.
arm is on it.
Moving parking to one side cuts the visibility issue in half, right? It means pedestrians on one side of the street aren't popping out from behind parked cars. So that was part of it, was that it opened things up. So one way with parallel parking, which was also something someone brought up, doesn't solve that, right? It actually, I think it might make it worse, because you have people, like you said, if you've got twice the space, I think that's why we have more speeding on Broad, is it looks like a 4-lane road. And speed is often more correlated with how the road feels than the signage.
I like the idea. I mean, first off, I don't think you can do temporary speed bumps because you allow motorcycles to go up and down, and
I wasn't
motorcycles.
sure if there's something we were gonna, I
But-
don't know.
But that being said, I like this idea. When you look at the spectrum of options, I think the one-way option is the nuclear option, right? And then let's maybe define the problem we're trying to solve, increase safety, we make sure we don't have an accident, visibility of, and I think we will find that if the problem statement is there's probably a non-nuclear option to solve that problem. Because once we go to one way, it's going to be difficult to reverse. I'm of the opinion, like Kelly, incremental options. Why don't we try something first? 4-way stop that flashes when somebody's in the walkway or something, visual signal, and see if that solves, if that solves
Maybe
the
a
problem.
crosswalk right
I
there.
mean, we have a crosswalk. It's the problem is, I think a stop sign
I
would be
would
helpful.
say the trees are hard to, like, if you come up Goodfellows and try to turn left.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible to see. So and I know we're all about the trees here, but perhaps we do something with that tree on that corner.
There's other,
Back up the
yeah.
parking so people can't park so close to the end, to the stop sign.
Yeah,
we've talked about with Lynn, with the planters that are down by between Market Square Park, or sorry, the
Put a
visitor center
camper
lawn.
right where they can't park.
So
the
a
car.
lot of places will do physical bump outs where they actually push the curb, where we have those grid paintings.
Mhm.
Those are not just so that people don't park and you can't see. It's also so people don't cut the corner really tight when a pedestrian's standing there. A lot of places will do physical bump outs where there's a curb, but for our plows, it'd be very difficult. So one of the ways places get around this is they just drop a planter that's 2 feet high on the corner during the
maybe that's
season.
the solution, yeah.
And that forces people to take the corner a little more softly, because you can't cut it shorter to hit the planter. It's short enough that people can see the pedestrian behind it, and it's movable so that when it comes to plow season, we pick it up with our forklift and move it away.
Right.
You can also do, we could have bike or motorcycle only parking as the last spot before the intersections, so that you're not getting a giant truck parking right at the corner, blocking everyone's view.
Right now.
Because even if you're in a car, you can't often see. So those are ways to fix that, like the Ambrose problem. I think Broad, it's just such a wide street that
Well, I've suggested in front of the bank, instead of doing parallel parking, you could do diagonal right there. That
so
would
up
give,
here, yeah.
right up here,
Yeah.
not necessarily on Main Street. I know we have some people that are here that I know have commented, so I'm curious to see if they have, I know they voiced opinion, but maybe you guys have some ideas that we haven't thought of. That would be great.
Well, the first thing, you mentioned the sign. When I was in Florida last winter on vacation, they have crosswalk signs that people push a button and it has flashing lights that come on underneath the sign. That might be a way at the crosswalk at General Smith Drive.
Is it a sign that goes across the street?
Stop signs.
There's a blinker
Oh,
on the stop sign.
that's like a figure.
If you ignore it in Florida, you get a ticket.
Right.
So
Okay.
that might be something to consider. I cannot support a one-way street. I think that is, I would spend a lot of time checking with the business owners to see what they think. I wouldn't want to have a business on the side of the street that has parking because you remove a little bit of their visibility. So, and four-way stop at Ambrose and General Smith Drive and West Main may not be the worst thing to try.
Yeah, I did go and I have spoken with, I think almost all but one of the business owners, and they have no major problem with it because there already is parking on, so everybody wants the diagonal parking to be across the street from them if they could help it, but.
If my diagonal parking is going to be, create more problems than it will help.
Yeah,
I don't think we have enough width of road.
we do, yeah. I've mapped it out with an old tool.
And I also think, if you've ever parked on Public Square or Court Street in Watertown,
Yeah.
and then you're
Try to
backing
back
out
out.
into oncoming traffic.
So some of this came from the conference I went to where I got street design book for pedestrians and, that actually was part of the, by design, is that people do drive slower when there's diagonal parking because they know that at any point in time, one of these cars can slowly back out. So it naturally causes people to go slower, especially if you have stop signs at each intersection. So you're not getting up to 30 really, between.
You shouldn't be getting up to 30
Well,
anyway.
I get it, people, and that's, so the idea is like, to my mind, the diagonal parking was almost a feature of, it causes people to be a little more cautious.
Maybe
I think initially I'd be
Maybe I'm
supportive of it,
just old,
but the more I think about it and the more people talk to me about it, I'm like, I just don't know what one way. Right now is the good thing.
We,
I'm not opposed to doing it eventually.
email, I hope you all got it.
We did.
Yeah.
About a traffic study, and I'm not talking traffic study. I wonder if the county has the technology with their road monitoring to actually can tell you how fast cars in the summer are really going.
yeah.
I'd be shocked if they're going over 20 miles an hour on a weekend down Main Street. I mean, well,
Yeah.
that's what-
Yeah.
that's-
Part of the issue is that the county, the reason we don't have a stop sign at Broad now is the last time it was brought up, it was managed by the county and they put their counter and they just said there's not enough traffic to justify it. And the issue is not it's not there for traffic, it's there for pedestrian. The reason that people want it is they're worried about their kids crossing 4 lanes. I know 2 are parking lanes, but it's a wide street to walk across. And there's the cars aren't even stopping. So they're technically supposed to come to a complete stop if they see anybody even waiting, but no one does that.
Seems to be a lack of knowledge about pedestrian safety and crosswalks and what's expected when you come to that sign. And
Yeah.
people, sometimes they stop,
That's for the
sometimes they don't.
Looking at me.
Understood,
Yeah.
yeah. But now the town switched management of Broad and some other street they didn't want to deal with the county. So the county took like a rural street and the town took Broad. And so the towns, what they have said when I asked them is, we'll do whatever you guys want. It's in the village. So if we want a stop sign, the town will put a stop sign
But
there.
what he's saying is that then technology might be able to tell us what the
What's
traffic
average
pattern
Broad
is.
Street in that
Yeah.
area? If it's
Right.
35, you want to slow it down.
Right.
But I think on West Main Street, hard pressed
It's,
to get cars going 30 in the summer down there, just the natural.
yeah, when it's parked up, it feels uncomfortable at about 20, at least for me, especially if someone's coming up, if it's open and you can go a little in the middle, but the issue is more about, it doesn't matter what the speed is if people pop out.
If you're a pedestrian and let's say you're coming down Ambrose, General Smith Drive
Mhm.
towards Maine. At the height of summer, you've almost got to be halfway into Main Street to check
Yeah.
for traffic.
And that's true about low to the ground cars too. Your
So-
hood's out in traffic before you can
Right.
see.
Cars are at the corners and you
Yes.
can't see.
Yes.
And they're,
So we could address that by getting people to park further away from the
Lantern.
sign.
yeah, we lose parking.
We're gonna lose parking by doing
to
that.
push it back. Or we can, that's why I thought like
I
right
would
now,
rather
we have
lose a
like,
couple of parking
Yeah.
spots than a child.
yeah, there's,
No parking signs would take care of that.
Yes, we
I
can.
pull up those corners and you can't see, well, just like
Yes.
you said, you can't see.
Right.
Yeah.
So you gotta know it's your car out there, see around the cars that
Well,
are coming.
yeah,
So if you're serious about making that safer, put some no parking signs up and eliminate parking spots.
And it's less required if it's a four-way stop, because then you pull up, you look to see if anyone else has stopped, and then you go in order.
But-
Even if you have a four-way stop.
With the trees down there, the
Yeah.
vegetation, and Dodge trucks parked on that line, are you gonna be able to see them stop signs coming up to them?
Right.
And they've never been there before.
No.
Sally, who's lived here 50 years, is coming up to the intersection. Stop
Might not.
sign's never been there before.
Right.
It's
No, there's-
It's amazing, people won't stop for that stop sign.
Yeah, there's like, and you probably have seen, the documented, like, how to roll out a stop sign, you put a bunch of extra signage in the middle of the road for like months to get people to realize
I
it's
worked for
there.
County Highway for 36 years in the sign shop, and we made a four-way stop one time in those 36 years. One time, that was it. Because people are not familiar with stop signs. If they've never been there, they don't know,
Yeah.
they'll roll right through them. It
Well-
makes it more dangerous.
once upon a time, there were no four ways on Washington Street. And now I think every intersection but Bayard is a four-way. And I've lived here my whole life and, I mean, initially, yeah, it was like, wait a minute, there wasn't a stop sign here, but I mean, you become accustomed to it. But I don't think it's something, if we were gonna do that, I don't think it's something we want to roll out.
You don't
June or
just spring that.
July.
No.
You'd have to.
I do
start
think
it.
it would be a learning curve, but I don't know if that necessarily, like, I don't want to make it I don't want to increase the safety issue.
It's the most dangerous thing to do at an intersection, is to add stop signs.
So instead of doing a stop sign, you're saying make no parking.
Sight lines.
Yeah, you can't see on those intersections. Greg said it, you can't see.
I think we have to go one step further
Those
though.
parking spots downtown.
Right.
That's the drawback. But if you're serious about making it safer, that's what you need to do.
I think a good point about the stop sign. I think we have to go one step further because sometimes people don't obey the stop signs. Put that planter there, we talked about, put something there, an obstruction, yeah, a temporary barrier for the season. We can remove after, October, just to make sure nobody parks there, to increase that vision. That solves maybe potentially the traffic issue, right? Now we gotta talk about the pedestrian, yeah.
Well, the one incident we have had where, Max got clobbered in front of the ice cream store was somebody rounding the corner off of, Main pretty quickly while
To
looking
be
at his
fair, it was
phone.
a kid.
And, but again, if there's a giant
Not
planter
saying
there,
that-
you can't turn that tightly and you
I
have to
agree.
slow down.
Right.
Yes.
Or you hit the planter, which is better than,
Okay.
Max was fine because didn't get hit it was slow, but still it was, pretty
No, but
dramatic.
we've had residents come and share
Yeah.
their concern or uncomfortableness of, just being down there.
Yeah.
Granted, pedestrians need to cross the street at crosswalks. They can't just come out in between cars. So if we designate spots,
They do though, right? So that's like,
but we can't make allowances for it. If there's a crosswalk, that's where they're supposed to use as a crosswalk. If they're using in between cars, then they're taking that on their own. We
Yeah.
can't prevent that.
some places they'll put signage that this is a pedestrian zone. So like it's a shared street. It's not for getting through to get somewhere quickly. Then you'll see like warning pedestrian signs. But again, I don't think that has a huge impact. Part of why I like going with one way is it's like you can't accidentally not realize there's been a change when there's one-way signs on the road and there's parking has changed. It's a dramatic enough change that people aren't gonna not notice and blow through a stop sign when someone else is thinking, this new stop sign is there. I'm just gonna walk and not look, and then they get hit. Right? So, I realize I'm stumping for something that, but my thought is it does like half measures can be worse than full measures sometimes, right? If it doesn't solve the problem, but it creates new problems, then it's,
I think we were trying to avoid doing a study just because it costs money.
well, also like
Trying to-
traffic studies aren't,
My fear is the traffic
Pedestrian
study won't
focus.
happen until this summer, which means now we don't do something for another summer. And then we're not addressing this until the
So-
following summer. So
Yeah, and
what
to be
is it
clear,
that
we weren't
could
winging
Feel
it.
comfortable doing
DCA
now.
Yeah.
And see if that's where I'm at. I don't know if I can support one way, but I don't want somebody to go through a stop sign either, so I don't know.
Did one accident, how many other accidents?
There hasn't been, but there've been some close calls and people hear, you know.
Well, also, part of it is the people who come here to complain, actually, when Paul was here, I was standing next to him at the farm stand and watching him, and I was about to, when he finally just decided to like, you know, wave his wife and kids to hold for a second and just like walked into the street with his bike, kind of like eyeing the cars until they stopped and then ushered them forward. He had been waiting there for like 3 minutes, and I was checking somebody out, and I was about to just go and do that for him because I saw him sitting there with the kids being nervous to, it doesn't have to be an accident to be a problem, right? Like we have people who are nervous about crossing the road for good reason and standing there while cars go by. You know, we're not only as,
Try another pedestrian crosswalk.
That's the thing, why don't we put a crosswalk on both sides of General Smith and Ambrose on Main? Cause it's only on the side where your shop is now, right? So
there's 3. So there's the going north and south. There's a crosswalk on both sides.
Right.
And then it's on the bottom. Frankly, people
But-
don't only
But
use
that's
that.
the thing. Why don't we try incremental measures? We could put in no parking spots just on those corners and then do something like a flashing pedestrian light. Avoid the stop sign altogether, try it for one summer and then reassess.
I mean, that's,
Feel
I mean, we might-
nice.
Box, because there's already an area where you have the diagonal.
Yeah, but people
striking
park
point.
on it. Yes, they do.
Sometimes, yeah. And it's not also like it
So
doesn't,
that's why I'm
we have a
thinking that
no
we would need to
parking
put
further
something
sign
there
that
so
doesn't
they
line up
could
with it.
park there.
Right.
That is the other thing.
Signs in front of the bank up there, I see cars parked on the weekend, in summertime, they're parked where they're not supposed to be illegal. It's
Where the curb butts
I
out.
know, we were just talking, we
Yeah.
did talk.
Where you can't fit through.
Yeah,
I think I installed that parking sign.
I don't think it's there anymore.
It's not there anymore?
No,
I think a tree knocked
I
down the
think the tree
storm.
knocked it down at that ice storm.
took it down.
But I mean, it just has to be enforced. Somebody's got
Yeah.
to say it's.
Right. You hear that, Gleason?
Yeah.
I don't think he's on, but
Yes,
I do,
Is he on?
I do. We've written tickets there before where it juts out near the bank and that, in the,
We have to.
parking spots that are closer to the corner by Goodfellows that are like painted, that, I think there's like one on each side that you're not supposed to park, but trucks do park there and they're big and you can't see around the corner. Is that enforced? Is there a spot near that corner that they're not supposed to park, John?
I know there is a cross, north of the intersection of Ambrose and Main Street.
Yep.
Can you take a baseball bat to the headlights if they do it?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think,
Might change what's being
Each of
enforced.
I
those
think-
four corners has.
It does. It's painted on there, but the problem is, even if you don't, if you park right up against it, unless you have like a very low to the ground car, you're certainly blocking kids. And now so many people have SUVs, trucks, tall cars that,
Go back further with the sign.
You can't.
Eliminate
Yeah.
more parking.
right.
So you can see.
You should actually go out there and park there and see where it is you need to actually place them.
Right.
But I think what I'm hearing a little bit, the time to solve this problem, we got to figure out our approach first, right? So is it, doesn't sound like we're in favor of a all or nothing, but maybe an incremental approach.
That's
That's kind of what I'm hearing is, or I mean, what do you guys thought? What are your thoughts? Greg, I haven't really heard. I got
there-
Sarah and Ellie's.
I have a question.
Yeah.
It's really tricky, even with normal passenger cars, when you're standing at that intersection in front of Alex's shop, looking to try and cross, you have the option of cars coming off from Ambrose and General Smith, plus the traffic on West Main. Would it be better to try and do a crosswalk down where we got rid of the entrance by the Battlefield Eatery and then a crosswalk up closer to the bank where traffic is like mid-block, and then you're only looking at cross traffic coming down West Main?
I mean, part of it is people will cross where it's convenient.
Right.
That's like,
But
Like a
if we
college
provide
campus
them
where you put
crosswit's and they
pavement,
choose
they
not
walk
to
up
use
and
it, then it's on them. That's how I.
it's not about on that. I mean, but to me, it's like to make it,
Yes, if we're giving them an option and
And
they're
if you did
purposely
the-
choosing it.
If you did the crosswalks down by the Battlefield Eatery and one near like by the post office by like Goodfellows, or not Goodfellows, wow,
Chrissy Beans.
Tin Band or Chrissy Beans, and you threw one of those signs like we have up on Broad Street at each of those
Keep
locations,
it away from the intersection.
keep it away from the intersection. That way it's not going to hurt anybody trying to turn trailers or anything. It would actually narrow the street down mid-block on both of those, which would automatically make any reasonable person slow roll it coming up to that stop sign, because it's just going to feel like you're constricted. So it might slow traffic down and make it safer for people to cross mid-block.
You have to cut out the parking on wherever you put the crosswalk. You can't have cars parked in it either. So but that's not a big deal.
But even to some of
I think
John's
those are
approach.
good ideas, though. If you keep those crosswalks away from that intersection, which is very congested, that's where it's least visible.
Yeah.
Still take care of the parking and trim the trees so that people that are driving a car can see. But if we make the pedestrians cross at a different spot.
Yeah,
I don't know how you'd enforce that,
they won't.
because people are gonna.
You can say like it's not our fault.
Again, I
man,
think
but
it's
that's
their
not the-
choice. If we provide them
that's
the
not the-
crosswalks and they're not using it and then come to a board meeting and complain, the crosswalk was
That's,
20
yeah,
feet
I
away
mean,
from that. Use
the
it.
problem is, I think you're adding 4 spots where you're hoping cars notice pedestrians, and right now they're not noticing them at the crosswalk we have. Right, so it's just
But we
like,
don't have the crosswalk sign that we do on Broad Street. So I think increasing those and putting a light on them, like the one that we have right now is basic. Doesn't flash a light, so maybe we increase that a little bit and get something.
People are very confused by those.
They are, every time.
It-
They don't know what
To
to
me,
do
it
when
either
they
needs to
come
be a
to.
stop sign or nothing.
I don't know
Because
why they don't understand what a pedestrian sign is, but they don't.
I mean, I think something on a pole elevated would be
Maybe
much better than.
is.
Because you know, in the summer, when you come to that, if you're on Main Street and you come to a stop and there are cars on Broad, you don't know what they're gonna do.
Joel's idea is to always claim the lane, but I'm like, until you get hit by a car, I'm standing on the corner waiting.
Yeah, and if you're a pedestrian, you don't know what they're gonna do either. That's even worse.
and that's why you're like, and you have to even start, you gotta walk across an entire parking space to get into the lane.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, you know what they're gonna do on Main Street because they got stop signs, but you don't know what they're gonna do on Broad.
no, I agree.
So it
All right.
sounds like we have some
Well,
more thinking to do. Do
Yeah,
we
I mean,
want to
does,
table this?
did anybody
for
here
any
not
other
get
ideas
to chip
that we
in
didn't
that would like to?
think of?
Personal opinion, I think, and also knowing if you just don't want to do something willy-nilly and open yourself up for a different lawsuit because you have yourself in a wasn't approved.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for anything we do, our plan was to put it to a proper, like to write a resolution out for people to come and review. We have to do that to change the law. But before that was to take a proposal that we liked and put it to BCA for their traffic engineer to get eyes on it. So that we're not making any, rookie blunders because we're a bunch of amateurs who just like walking around and not getting hit by cars, but that we have someone who's got some, credentials to look at it. So we're not, when we say we don't want to do a traffic study, it's not that we're just totally ignoring the fact that there are professionals with real experience in this. It's that we are trying not to just go and spend a bunch of money for someone to tell us the traffic, because the traffic count of the cars is not really what's driving it. It's like there's a few times a year, maybe 3 days a week for 2.5 months, where it's a major issue that is driving a lot of this. And then also just, right now, I would argue we're probably the safest place for kids in Tri-County area. And it'd be nice to keep that the case. And if we have to make a few changes, personally, I think the biggest one for that is Broad. Like if Broad Street was a 4-way stop, I'd feel a lot more comfortable about the 8-year-olds that are biking around crossing that to go astutely.
If you go stick a new stop sign up there, you feel safe about an 8-year-old boy going across that crosswalk, thinking that car is going to stop for that new stop sign that's never been there.
No, I mean, I understand that to do that, you've got to put lighted signs, new stop sign ahead. There's like 16 signs I've seen when when that change happens. But
That's the problem with it. You think that car's going to stop.
no, I understand. The transition period is long and you need to do a bunch of extra stuff.
Until you see it, you won't believe it.
Yeah.
Just a quick story, went up to college one time. Gentleman took over there back in the early 2000s. He had us come up and run his stop signs in front of the daycare center out there, slow traffic down, coming up by the daycare. Fought with the boss at the time. And the boss said, just go put them up for him. So we went up there, installed the stop signs. Class let out. Cars just. He looked at me, he goes, how come they're not stopping? I don't know. He goes, get those effing things out of the ground.
Yeah.
They're in there 5 minutes.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, but to some extent, is that not an argument for never changing any signage ever, right? Which is like, how do you get signage where it needs to be? Right? Like, surely putting it up and hoping people suddenly notice is a bad plan. I've seen like, I don't know what's called, like change in signage ahead, like big signs that are like a construction zone sign. And then like something in the middle blinking. It's really obnoxious. And you're like, how do they need this many things? But then you realize if you're driving anywhere you've driven before, you're not looking for new signs. It's all habit, right? So I get that.
Which is kind of why I'm leaning towards doing something a little less so that we can avoid, and if it works and, if it doesn't work, then we can come back and have this conversation again
Yeah.
and be like, all right, that didn't work. We still had some concerns. There was still some safety issues. All right, now we have to try a stop sign. But I'm just wondering if we try some of the crosswalk things, changing the visibility on those corners. I don't care if you make them, lighted or whatever. Sorry, I didn't if you did last week. I would feel better doing something.
Okay, well, we've gotten a decent amount of discussion done. We don't have really any,
Do we,
hard.
if we don't do signage, we don't have to do a resolution if we're just gonna do
No, I mean,
increasing safety measures. There's nothing that the board needs to actually. If we do stop signs or.
anything that we're gonna enforce. So if we, for example, did like motorcycle and bike only parking for the
It would have-
last
that would
20
have to
feet or
be a
15
resolution.
feet, I think that's technically only enforceable if we change the law.
Okay.
But I'd have to check with Jim if that's like
I just
inside our
didn't know the
scope.
timeline because we want this in place for
Yeah.
spring. So I would say by April, so
Yeah, I
budget season's coming, so I just don't want it to get lost in the busyness that's
Yeah.
about to happen, that if we do decide.
I would say we workshop it offline a little bit until we
Okay.
have something that we like via email.
Okay.
And then we kick that to BCA and then we bring it back to a public meeting.
The thing, if it's helpful at all, I could have our traffic engineer come up just to kind of look at stuff real quick, meeting, so they can give some thoughts and ideas as you start to put stuff together, probably, have him come up and wouldn't charge, to start conversation.
I'm on board.
I'm on board for that.
I was waiting. You had me
Cool.
at free of charge. Please do.
Yes, sir.
One real quick fast thing. When a large boat comes in or something like that, if you do whatever you do there, you may want to think about maybe allowing waiting times for the businesses at certain times of the day. So when you're gonna have tractor trailers, they're allowed before noon or something like that. I mean, Navy Point usually brings in their boats in early. So if you bring in a 45 or 50-foot boat that's on a trailer, they're only they gotta go back both up and down that street. But you can do it in such a way that it's only during these allowed times.
Navy Point has been cooperative about telling their boaters, hey, because they schedule a lot of their launches, right? Because they have to use the lift, and they'll tell them, hey, you should not be going down Main Street with any. They should come down Washington and then turn because you can't fit them.
When you bring in a 45-foot boat, I don't think you can make that turn
No,
other than right up and out of that.
Yeah.
The village.
Yeah.
So for those kind of boats, for the little guys, no big deal.
Yeah.
124 feet, 130 feet, go up Washington.
I can't get the liquor distributors to show up when we're open, so I don't know how much the tractor trailers will listen to whatever our rules are. They come when they come. But
John putting a ticket on their
yeah,
dash may work.
yeah,
They usually haul the big boats right past my police station, Washington to Hill.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Straight shot to,
Because you get a better
That's
good shot.
better angle coming. Yeah.
All right, well, let's move on to end of year certification for return taxes. We are waiting on the county, so we can skip past that one. The contract bond for the barracks, I already chatted about. That's just basically me telling the bond authority that we're
Right.
still open. The health insurance benefit, we talked about this last month. I didn't want to formally vote on personnel policy change with only 3 members here. I neglected to get the language in front of everyone. So we're going to push that again, but next month that will be something to look at before we have a meeting. So in 3 weeks, that'll be back on. The new business. Tell me, are you guys, next up, you have the event permits, or is it the water? Yeah, event permits. All right, let's do those next. These came in, this is live at the bandstands and the 1812 challenge are on the same day. They're cooperating with each other. Peggy, did you look through? I didn't see anything that I noticed was different between these from year to year.
Other than the actual data that you put
Right.
on the 12 challenges and directors.
Oh, good.
That's January.
That's the hardest part. Never mind. It's the application.
Yeah. Especially when you're using the old one and you're just changing things, you don't see what you.
So the 5K is not gonna close Main Street this time?
They didn't, right? Or they
The
started,
5K race will take place on June 7th, designated to keep Main Street accessible. So that tells me they're not closing it.
but I don't think we did last year either.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Cause they finish
They
into
went
the,
across it instead
Yeah,
of down it. Okay,
yeah.
I just wanted clarification.
Good news. They have their liability insurance in this year already.
There we go.
yeah, and Peggy said the marathon folks sent their application in like 3:38 today, so we're putting that to next month, but because she didn't have time to look through it.
It's
supposed to be June
The 1812 challenge did not send their. That was the-
Okay.
Well, I mean, not to be that guy, but can you kick it back to them and come back with the right dates on this so we have actually have an
I know,
application?
I'm like fixing it
I mean-
for him.
I'll have them fix the date and send them in.
That
Okay, then
works.
let's kick it off till next month.
All right, do you want to approve the live at the bandstand?
Yes,
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the application for live at the bandstands.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I think that'll give the 1812 guys some reassurance too, because they're working together on it, so.
Sure.
they'll know.
There you go.
Great. All right. Next up, this is a little bit of a complicated one. I'm gonna try and do the Cliff Note version, and then if we have any further questions, Jim can answer them. The long and short of it is we paid for our intake out of pocket because we have been saving towards capital expenditures for 26, yeah, okay, 26 years. Via not reducing the water rate to the variable cost, but leaving it with a little bit of padding to add to the capital fund, which we're probably going to continue to do for things like the filters that Lynn mentioned. However, because that's how we did it, and we generally bill the town as a percentage of their use, the town uses 37% of our water, and 37% of that project would move their water rate from $4 to $30 per thousand if we charge them all of it in 1 year. Jim's suggestion is to move it to $6 over 10 years, which is, we don't have debt that we're trying to get rid of quickly, so that's fine. It basically adds to our future padding for future capital projects. Even though technically they're paying us back for the things we already spent because we saved that money in advance.
Yeah.
But the long and short of it is, this is a letter to the town explaining that situation to them. It is also softened by the fact that we have still 2 years left of their approximate $1 per thousand credit from our previous billing snafu. So they'll actually only see the rate go from about 4 to about 5 for the next 2 years. And then after that, it'll go to 6. Their next best water is from, is it Dexter you said was $7 or $8 a thousand? So we're still pretty competitive in our water.
June 1, this letter indicates it go to $6.
But you had said that their other alternative for water
Yeah.
was
Town of Water.
Town of Watertown is like 8 or,
7, 8.
yeah. So we're still
That
the
keeps under
the
that.
best option. We're cheaper with better quality water than their other options still. I mentioned this, to Supervisor Arthur, but just kind of generally. And we need to authorize Jim to send this to them. And it needs to be done by next meeting, but because it's a March 1 impact on them, I thought it'd be better for us to do it now, so they have more than like a week between when they get it and when their meeting is. Or even a day if it's, I forget which, yeah, it's only, their meeting's the day after ours. So if we don't authorize to send this until next meeting, then they're getting hit with the bill before they even had a chance to discuss it and make sure their people understand what's going on.
Opportunity to edit this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there,
Well, the only thing I would suggest is that we add a payment schedule, the new payment schedule.
Oh, sure.
You know what I'm saying?
So going forward.
Going
Yeah.
forward. This shows what
The historical.
historically, but
Well, the next page, doesn't it show that?
no, that's historic.
It all ends at 2024. You're right.
Oh,
Yeah.
So it's done
basically
verbally,
showing them the
yeah.
schedule for the next 10 years, going from 4 to 6 or.
Well, and also we're not committing to 6
That's smart.
forever because our variable costs may change as well.
This letter is sent to them manually, Greg. And the rate is,
Yeah,
just.
it's explained verbally, but I like what you're saying.
No,
to put it
I
in
know
the
it's
table.
verbally, but.
Yep.
You know, it's basically crazy.
He's just saying on the
Show
table
them
where
the
you did by
annual rate
year.
for the next 10 years.
that'd be a scary proposition because you don't wanna.
We can't commit to it for, well, we can put the next 2, we can show them like this year and then projected estimate.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
and label it as an estimate,
Yeah.
just so.
Sticker shock.
The people in the town know what they know.
It's a sticker shock. I got a lot of emails last year when we did the re-levy thing.
Mhm.
That was, or not the re-levy, the
Reassessment.
reassessment. Sticker shock got a lot of people. Nobody was coming. I didn't know it was gonna be this much, all right?
See, all these backup schedules, are a backup to the different rates because the town, it's a good thing. It's a variable letter because the town, without, having, the exact figures, would say you're just increasing the rate to pay for your capital project. This proves that the town is using 37% of the gallons pumped out of our water plant that, Lynn gives me every year, so they're actually paying 37% of our capital project. And they might think that's unfair, but that's how many gallons they're being billed.
No, understood all
Yeah.
that. To Greg's point, it'd be nice to get
Yeah,
this.
that's an easy change to make.
That could be that one liner could be added in the next years. Your estimate could stay at $6 a thousand.
I mean, I think as long as there's an indication that it's an estimate. But here's what it could be.
Yeah.
No, I like it. I think that's the smart thing to add.
So with that change, I would say we could approve the letter.
Yeah, I mean,
Agreed.
Adding that one liner.
Yep. Just,
Well-
Jim, and you and I can just review it before we send it. We don't have to.
Agree.
it's a.
Yeah.
A table, not a.
Yeah,
Like,
no, a line to the table, a row.
He's looking for
A couple
next,
of-
next,
yeah,
he wants next in years, yeah.
I got you.
well,
I know what you mean.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So
All right.
I'll make a motion to approve the letter pending an addition of future years to the table. And Jim and I will take a look at that before we send it out.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right, there's one other blip from the new business for water. And this we don't need to do right away, but I wanted you guys to think about it. The water and the sewer are totally separate funds. Right now, our sewer fund is sufficient to do and pay for all of the sewer replacements we need. The water fund is something like 30% of what we need for the water. There's more water lines to be replaced than sewer, and yeah,
Lynn talked about
the forestry project.
yeah.
Is that?
Yep.
Okay.
So one suggestion Jim made was right now our min for sewer is 125 and our min for water is 100. We could flip that. So all people who have both would have a net zero change, but we'd start padding our water fund a little more because it's underfunded for future capital projects and stop over padding the sewer. This is something we can do at budget time because this is internal to the village. and we don't need to do it now, but I just thought it's worth thinking about. And he told me a couple weeks ago, and I've been thinking about it. I didn't want to like spring it on you guys last
Again,
minute.
if we act on that February's meeting. The rate change, that's for the usage that starts March 1 to May 31, that's. doesn't-
Oh, yeah.
June
So
1.
we could, yeah, we could actually do it next month, not wait for
So
budget.
to act on it for February starting with March 1's usage,
Then it would actually.
the net change wouldn't.
So it would have a few change, it would affect a few people because there are some people who like if you don't have sewer, it'll make your bill less or.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I don't think we have anyone in the opposite case, but there are some places that have like the businesses have like they pay a percent or a multiple of sewer and water. So some people will have a little bit different, but by and large, it's the same.
The amount they would be charged was the same. We're just designating it to a
Yes.
different account.
A different minimum, yeah.
So it's just something to think about. If you have any
Like
questions.
Brown Shores Road, they're water but not sewer. Right?
Yes, so their bill will go down.
So their bill will go down.
Yes.
Yeah, Brown Shores has.
No.
sewer.
Brown Shores has both.
They do have both?
Yeah,
Some of it doesn't.
Begg's Beach. Right.
Yeah, like Morges doesn't have sewer.
But Alan said it right. All the sewer projects now and in the future are already funded. Whereas just, for example.
It makes
they
sense.
just proposed tonight.
It's a soft change. I mean, it won't affect a lot of people.
To be funded.
It makes sense.
So-
Makes sense.
That is,
We adjourn. Oh, I can ask you. after.
not, yeah,
I just
we
wanted to
have
make-
one, we have public comment. Yeah,
Okay.
again, I do like to do it twice in case people think things.
Okay.
Hopefully no one, well, not hopefully, whatever. We have one more, public comment period. If anyone has thought of something that has not been discussed or has joined Zoom late, wants to chime in.
And you
Got a
want
hand
to
back.
tell us how good we are?
Amy McCauley, I'm just here to remind or to renew the enthusiasm, excitement I have for pickleball, hoping that the courts out there can be improved. I don't even want to, I don't even look at it in the eye, or what we need to do to make it happen, I guess. We can go into the why, it's expensive, you're going there, paying, they're having to add more and more,
Did we?
You brought your own equipment, right? That net reverse? Yeah, so that she actually brought up, and you left it here for, yeah, it was nice.
You're looking for
people-
us to do it this time, right?
Well, the pavement. So she's got the net. They're gonna smooth out the pavement so that there's not ankle break risk and
Yeah.
resurface it.
yeah,
And
because the lines that, the cement blocks are 20 feet and they need to be, they're just the wrong width.
Is it
Let's do this.
18
concrete versus asphalt? Is it?
Asphalt is not really recommended. I think I gave, who did I give that card to? I brought it in, I gave a card to, that does resurfacing. That a deal?
not sure.
You send it to me, maybe. Yeah, just there's,
I have the information.
okay.
You're quietly pretending like he doesn't know you're talking to him.
Wow. Go through there.
Yeah, so I don't want to, it's late, we don't need to talk about it. I just wanted to say, I'm excited about it, thinking about a kickoff. I'm starting to dream about having clinics and like beginner clinics and just clinics.
Did you have a league last year? Or
What's that?
did you have a league?
We did not have a league last year.
You guys are out there a lot though.
We are part of the league up at Watertown, the Y, and I can tell you it's really taken off because they've had to add other days and people get really testy about court time. And so it'd be really nice. And also, I don't see it being as big as like at the Y, but having some skills, some clinics on skills or beginner skills and then.
Do you think that there would be a need for, I know the Y does, they have to sign up for it? You wouldn't need to do
I'm not
that,
looking
right?
at
Like
doing
first come,
that,
first
yeah.
served kind of thing?
First come,
Okay.
first serve, and we think we get the four courts, if it gets big, it catches on, which it seems like it's going in that direction. We could have tournaments, there's enough room for four courts out there.
Okay.
But I'm just looking forward to being able to, kick it off, have.
Let's work together. We'll get some quotes. I'll get in the rec committee budget and we'll go from there.
Well,
Have neighbors.
Resurfacing that.
already have the information.
Yeah.
You have quotes?
All right,
You just gotta.
thank you.
How about that rec committee, you know?
All right, guys, Saran.
I was just talking with Lynn about that. So we'll try to get it added. Let me talk to the rec committee. We'll try to see if we can't. Once I get quotes and numbers, budget season's coming up. By the way, if you're part of an organization, start getting your budget stuff ready for us. But we'll get that maybe added to the rec budget for 20.
We do like line it, I mean.
Good.
Put the actual lines on it, so we've got the courts.
I think it would be fun.
Yeah, and just need to do it, consult a professional because they get really, really crazy about how the lines are.
How's your traffic engineer on pickleball regulations?
They talk about outside the line measurement, inside of the line measurement.
Gosh, I
All right, well,
On the pavement first, hold on.
Yeah, let's just surface it first.
all right. Sounds good. Any other public comment, guys? All right, I think we're all set.
Not bad.
Yeah.
I thought-
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I was waiting for you to find it.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are you gonna, are you gonna?